Hey, Joe Martin here. You've seen our commercials over the years, and you may be wondering, what's in it for me? Well, ITI Technical College has been selected by Forbes magazine as a top 32-year college. But even more than that, the reason we do this is you. Our tagline is, for a better life, and we mean that, for you to be able to have the life you've always dreamed about, to do the things for your family you've always dreamed about. And it can begin here, where we are dedicated to your success, because here at ITI,
This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag, and I'm Lee Feinswag. We're in our 24th year, if you count Sports Monday and Sports 225, and the only way that could happen is, well, it's my show.
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. And now, me.
Now we got the music. I won't be too early. You can switch over. There you go. Well, it's Sports 225. Glenn Guilbeau is here from the USA Today Network, and I'm Lee Feinswag. This is almost the end of the 24th season of this show being on the air, starting with Sports Monday, continuing on to Sports 225, which is incredible, and you think how many times you've been on this show. But I wanted Glenn to come on to talk about the important things in life that matter, like what's going to happen at the New Orleans Jazz Fest now that the Rolling Stones have bowed out, and what's happening with LSU basketball. And I want to get right to the point and drop a bombshell on you, because this is what I think. LSU needs to make a hire of the next basketball coach that's a wow factor, a guy who can recruit his ass off, coach his ass off, and win basketball games and see the program keep going forward. And I say hire Rick Pitino, and I'm serious.
No, I don't think so. I think LSU has as difficult a job as the Jazz Fest does.
Nick Jagger is going to coach LSU basketball.
I think Pitino would fit better at the Jazz Fest. No, I mean, that's, you're hiring somebody from the mafia, Rick Pitino. No, he's just too dirty. I mean, I know it's a corrupt sport, but LSU's got to get like a young coach with no shred of NCAA issues or shady at all, which Will Wade actually was a little bit when they hired him. But I could still understand Oliva hiring him. But I mean, people told me before Wade was hired, as he was getting hired, the NCAA is going to follow Wade to LSU, and that's exactly what's happened.
That's interesting. You heard that, because I heard that, I know, from different people than you.
Well, I heard it from somebody who covers schools in that area. Mm-hmm. Where you probably did too.
The Atlantic Seaboard,
Well, a little more southern than that, but the South Atlantic Seaboard.
The South Atlantic Seaboard. Not likely we have the same contact.
One of the 13 colonies.
One of the
but southern.
Speaking of the 13 colonies, one of my favorite movies was on recently, 1776, which is, of course, it's a musical, but it's really awesome. It leads you into the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
A musical?
It's fantastic. Yeah, in South Carolina.
Can't stand
North
musicals.
Carolina. They really huge in that whole thing. Georgia, speaking of South Atlantic, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, and the music's good.
I saw a good political movie, the Judge Ginsburg movie.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Pretty interesting.
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I saw that on the plane coming back from D.C.
So, before we get to the entertainment part of the show, which we will, because we got to talk about the Jazz Festival gap, but I've gotten to the point now where everybody just feels so dirty in college basketball on so many levels. The image problem, and we all know about the payments. And if you think anybody's clean, you're crazy. And that's why I say hire Pitino. What the hell? I mean, the guy's a proven great coach, and you'll win. And image be damned. What do they care about? TV audiences, selling the seats, and winning basketball games, and not necessarily in that order. Not just LSU, everybody.
Well, but LSU wants to be in partnership with the NCAA and try to do things as the NCAA would want, so they won't get worse penalties. And that's how they handled their last football NCAA issue with Akeem Hicks, and they really helped themselves there. And they helped themselves by suspending Will Wade, just like Auburn helped itself by firing Chuck Person immediately, the assistant, and suspended 2 players who they returned this season, but they were suspended all of last season. So I think that's how LSU's going to operate. They want to do what the NCAA wants them to do, and the payoff is not as bad sanctions. And I think that's probably what's going to happen.
You mentioned Auburn. I'm a Bruce Pearl fan. I like Auburn as well. No reason not to.
Bruce
Okay.
Pearl's not clean, but he's not on tape.
Right.
That's the key.
And what about the argument that LSU fans make, which is, but wait, he didn't go in and talk to his bosses.
He wasn't on tape. That's the thing. Sean Miller was on tape too, the Arizona coach. But he may be in trouble. But he spoke to his bosses. He had a press conference. He denied everything. He came back. Wade is on tape in more detail than I think any coach ever. I mean, and he's done nothing but cite his constitutional rights, which prisoners have. I mean, I don't know why he did that. He's done nothing. I really think he's dissed his players too. I mean, he at least owed his players an effort to come back. He could have sat down with Oliva and the NCAA people and finessed those questions. And if there's a question he didn't want to answer, don't answer it. And he might have been able to return for the rest of the season. But his strategy has been awful. I don't know what he's thinking.
All right, let's finish up this segment on this. We're actually taping the show on Wednesday. First airings will be Friday and even Saturday before the Final Four begins. If I had told you before the season began that both Texas Tech and Auburn would be in the Final Four, you just said, come on, seriously. Texas Tech.
How about Texas Tech, TCU, and Texas, I think, those two were in the NIT Final Four, right? Wasn't Texas in there?
Texas was in there and
yeah,
TCU, I think.
And then Texas Tech's in this one, so you got three Texas schools in the two Final Fours. But no, I don't think anybody saw Texas Tech getting there. Michigan State's not a huge surprise. I thought they had a chance.
Michigan State's good.
Oh yeah, they're very good.
Yeah.
They're very good, and I don't think Wade could have beat them if he'd have stayed on at LSU, but would have made more adjustments than Coach Benford, and it probably would have been a closer game.
Yeah,
they might have had a shot.
Well, you mentioned
Auburn's a surprise.
You mentioned the name, and that's what I want us to go to break on and come back after the break about Coach Benford.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
He's Glenn Guilbeau. He works for the USA Today Network, as he has told me no longer to say whatever it was he used to work for. But you can still read his stuff at Lafayette Advertiser and at WWL.com, right, still. And you're
LSU B Tweet.
Yes, and follow him on Twitter at LSU B Tweet. I'm Lee Feinswag. This is Sports 225.
Hi, I'm the human dislike button. You may recognize me as the guy who enforces rules at Breck Parks. Check out my amazing presentation. Did you know? Motorized vehicles are not allowed in Breck Parks. Sales and solicitation are prohibited without permission from Breck. And my favorite rule, keep Breck Parks clean by placing all trash in trash cans. Come on, you can do this. For more information about these and other Breck rules, please visit breck.org/HDB.
Back on Sports 225. It's basketball season. It's April Madness since we're 1 month ahead. Glenn Guilbeau is here, and you mentioned Coach Benford, the man who acted as the head coach when Will Wade was suspended by LSU, and we learned that not only I was sad to see that Billy Kennedy didn't make it at Texas A&M because he's a great guy and a fabulous basketball coach.
Metairie kid.
Yep. With an interesting resume and just a wonderful person. Nonetheless, the athletic director at Texas A&M, the Catholic High graduate Scott Woodward, poached Buzz Williams from Virginia Tech, who also coached at UNO and was once on staff way back when at Texas A&M. And among the people he's bringing into his staff is the aforementioned Coach Benford.
Benford.
Spell it.
Benford.
Somehow I had an extra I in there. That's what happens when you don't write stories anymore. I can say them wrong and not type the letters right. He leaves, which is a very strong indicator that he doesn't think that Will Wade will be back and he'd be retained as assistant coach.
Of course, he might have left anyway.
He might have. Yeah.
Texas A&M spends more money on coaches.
I bet he's getting a pay raise.
Yeah, and his background is Texas.
Yeah.
The state of Texas. So that leaves LSU with two remaining assistants, and they got to make sure they keep those guys. And I think they're both on multi-contracts, but those guys are important. They need to keep the players from leaving that wouldn't be leaving anyway.
The current players,
right.
And then make sure that there's contact with the recruits who
sure.
are signed and also the ones who are commitments.
Right.
They just be patient, wait and see what will happen. In the SEC, a quarter of the league has coaching openings. How in the world? Like, I will tell you, I thought when Alabama hired Anthony Grant, that was a home run. Thought he was going to do a great job at Alabama.
I thought LSU should have hired him at one point.
Exactly. I thought
but
the same thing.
He hasn't been, you know.
No, and then Avery Johnson, I thought, well, even if he's not great, he can't fail there. How in the world does Alabama not have a really, really good basketball team? And it makes you look back and go, man, Wimp Sanderson was better than we thought. Of course, I knew it at the time.
Well, David Hobbs was only relatively good for a little while. They've never really been much in basketball. I'm sure it kills them that Auburn's in the Final Four. Alabama's never been in the Final Four.
No.
I think that was Auburn's first time playing with a chance to go to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. Was that their first Elite Eight?
I think they were in the round of 8 once.
Sonny Smith got them in the round of 8?
Maybe that team with, I don't
remember.
Gosh, they had that superstar junior college transfer who played so well.
And I don't think Alabama's ever made it to the Elite Eight either.
No.
You know, they've lost in the Sweet 16 a couple times.
Alabama's got to make a big-time splashy hire, too.
Yeah, well, I've heard them talking about Rick Pitino. You know, could you imagine Pitino and Saban at the same place?
Yes, actually, I could. Somebody's going to hire Pitino. He doesn't have to show cause, you know. Now, one of the things I hear going around is that LSU's going to hire John Brady. Come in, John, we'll give you a 3-year, get the ship right, get things going.
See that?
I called him. He's the only. I left my phone on only in case he calls back during the show. I'll take his call. I'll put him on speaker.
Well, you know, the logic of that makes sense. Hiring somebody kind of a exaggerated interim coach, kind of, if you will. You know, a guy to kind of just keep the program steady for a couple of years and don't pay him much. You fire Wade with cause, you get $10 million of his salary if he was fired without cause. You pay this interim or whatever coach maybe a $1.5 million. I mean, you're saving $8 million that you have when all this blows over and you want to go hire a real coach. I mean, like a permanent coach.
Right.
But I think John Brady would be great in that situation if he wants it, you know.
Well, he's been with the program as a radio analyst the last couple seasons. When it comes to the 94/50, he's as good a coach as there ever was. Great coach.
I thought they should have made him an assistant because they were a man down, you know, when Benford took over. You know, I thought they should have moved him over there and just kind of help with the defense or whatever. Now, I don't know if Brady's the guy who can keep the players there. You know, he's not a great recruiter. You know,
but he can point back to look.
He's mellowed,
coach
though.
in a Final Four.
Yeah,
I've got all these. You know, Garrett Temple's still in the NBA. You know, a couple other guys. You know, from.
I mean, it could work. You know, he's. You know, he couldn't go in like when he went in to replace Dale. He was very brash and everything. He would go in differently though.
Well, he's the new and improved John Brady.
Sure,
I always maintain that the ghost of Christmas future visited him during the night. And, you know, whatever.
But he is an excellent, you know, and he'd have made more adjustments than that staff did against Michigan State, I guarantee you.
Well, John watches Sports 225, so there you go, John. Shady could be back in the saddle. Bring in Richard Williams, get him off the Mississippi State radio crew as your assistant. Can't get Kermit because he's got a job. Butch Pierre would come back.
Why not bring Dale, too, man?
Put the band back together.
Coach Brown and Brady together.
No, but, all right, so LSU still is going to have to hire a basketball coach. And so let's just assume, for argument's sake, Will Wade is not coming back and Brady's not the right guy. Who's out there? What do you do?
Pete Thamel floated some names, the Murray State coach, the Western Kentucky coach. You know, that's the kind of level you need to go at. And so you can hire him cheap, so that nobody else is really gone after, because that's all you're going to get, because you know they haven't even fired the Wade yet, so they're kind of behind time-wise. So they're not going to get a great candidate. They're not going to get the type candidate they could have gotten if they didn't have any trouble going on. Like they probably wouldn't have been able to get Will Wade, you know, in this situation. Fast forward. So I think they need to take advantage of it. Hire somebody who's young, not proven, don't pay them much, and save the money from the firing. You know, that's the only positive thing you can get out of it, right? And try to keep the players. You know, Nas Reed and Tremont Waters probably leaving anyway, but try to keep those players together, because you got some talent. You know, that could be something that attracts a coach, even though you know, okay, you got this NCAA club, but at least I got some players. I could do something for a year or two here and then maybe get another job, you know? Whereas when Brady came in, you had the cloud of the NCAA, plus they didn't have a roster. and they were bad for quite a few years.
That was the worst team ever his first year, but still.
And you remember they were looking at, in better circumstances, they probably could have got Tim Floyd at that point, or there was who was the coach at Ole Miss that they were looking at?
Oh, Rob Evans.
They were looking at Rob Evans.
Turned the job down.
He turned it down, so they had to go to this Samford coach who, people weren't knocking on Brady's door, but he ended up being a great hire. My goodness. He's the second best coach LSU's ever had in basketball.
And let me leave you with this, that there is no one on the LSU roster who should be leaving the LSU basketball team for any reason except for Big B Williams because he's a senior. Naz Reid needs to go back to school and keep working on his degree and play another year of college basketball.
But that's true.
It's not the point. It's not the point, and it's not going to happen, I'm sure. Tremont Waters needs to be back in school.
He's not going to play in the NBA anyway, Tremont Waters.
Keep earning credits towards a degree that will matter one day and keep becoming a better college basketball player.
But you can see why maybe you had a chance to keep those guys if Wade was here, but I just can't see Nas.
Well, I guess it all depends on who they hire. And, of course, this weekend coming up is the coaches' convention, which is typically where these things occur because the athletic directors and their representatives go meet with those coaches and their representatives at the Final Four. That may not happen this year.
Well, Joel even needs to go find somebody who nobody's thinking of.
And I got to stop because we're 100 years over. Okay? And there's Brady. We'll get him as soon as we come back from break. All right. This is Sports 225, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm the human dislike button. You may recognize me as the rules guy for Breck Parks. Sometimes the rules slip past us, so I put together this amazing presentation. Did you know? Golf practice is only allowed at designated golf facilities. Firearms, explosives, and weapons are not allowed on Breck property. Metal detecting is allowed in some parks, but go to Breck's website to learn more about this and other park rules. For more information, visit breck.org/HDB.
Well, one of the things we do on Sports 225 is to keep track. I actually keep my cell phone down by my leg with a stopwatch running because it helps me keep track of the segments and stuff. And at the end of the last segment, that phone call was, in fact, from John Brady, who said that he's happy being the radio announcer and there's no job to talk about because there's not a job opening at LSU. I quote him pretty accurately?
Yes, you did.
That was a pretty funny conversation. And, of course, it was off the air and off the record, but...
But here we are talking about
I don't know whether we threw him quite a curveball. We got him laughing. Anyway, Glenn Guilbeau's here. He writes for the USA Today News Service, covers LSU, the SEC. Sometimes he does some Saints stuff. The last time you were on was not long after the Saints football game. Were you happy they changed the interference rule? They can go review it now.
Yes, the Saints rule.
The Saints rule. I loved it back when umpires and referees were God. Whether they got the call right or not, they just made the call. That was it. And you moved on. Now you don't even have the good arguments in baseball because they don't argue. The managers don't run out there and go nose to nose. They simply say, well, we're going to replay it. And then if the replays goes against them, they go, oh, well, we sit down. Where's Earl Weaver when you need him?
Well, you can't review this play and not review that play. That's just illogical. I mean, you almost have to make everything reviewable if you're going to make anything reviewable. And that's kind of what they moved toward in this latest NFL rule where coach can ask for a replay of anything. But they have to be able, in its essence, the replay has to be able to change awful calls, and that was the most awful call in history as far as what was at stake. The Stabler Holy Roller was worse, but that was an early season game. It didn't really matter.
The Stabler Holy Roller. There are people out there going, what's he talking about?
Ken
Stabler was a guy who actually played quarterback at Alabama and then played in the old AFL with the Oakland Raiders and got tackled, but as he got tackled, just rolled the football.
And then somebody else kicked it.
Was it Dave Casper, his tight end?
Yeah, just kicked it in the end zone.
All right. We haven't talked about the most important thing. We hadn't talked about the most important thing.
Jazz Festival.
So the city and Quint Davis and the Jazz Festival made a big deal out of the Stones coming, which, of course, when you think of Jazz Festival, you don't think of Rolling Stones, but that's
just a title. That was years ago.
I know. So they did a special ticket drawing, and you had to be a New Orleans resident, right, to buy the tickets, and people camped out overnight, like at the Superdome or wherever they sold them, And
$200.
yeah,
And they closed down. This is the first time ever when the Stones played. Nobody else was going to be playing.
right, like I say,
To kind of give people more room.
right at a certain time of day, they were going to close. All the other acts are going to be done. This is on the Thursday, right? The second week, the first day, the Thursday.
I think
that's
so.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what it was. Right.
Well, Mick Jagger has to have heart surgery, and so the Stones had to cancel. They won't be there, which leaves a big problem. I mean, how many people are there that you can bring in of that magnitude? Who, McCartney?
I was thinking McCartney, Ringo, and Sean Lennon. You know, John Lennon's son, Sean Lennon. But I mean, that's not going to happen.
I mean, I remember one year when Aretha Franklin bailed out on him, claimed she was sick, and
You and I were together for
Earth,
that.
Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was a good trade. And they did that overnight, basically.
And Earth, Wind, and Fire put on a show that was just unbelievable.
It was great, yeah. And, you know, I got April Fooled. A friend of mine sent me something that Led Zeppelin was reuniting for that. And, you know, that's one where you could do an even swap.
Right.
If Zeppelin came back, you could do that. But I don't know if
So
anyone
wait,
else
what
could-
did he do? Did he call you, text you?
No,
What did he do?
there was like this fake story on Music Line or something that looked legit, and then at the end it said April Fool. And I had showed it to a buddy of mine. I was having coffee in Metairie after I landed from D.C., and he's reading it on my phone, and I get my other phone to call our buddy,
Right.
Steve LaFaso, who's a musician.
Do you have
in
tickets
New
for that
Orleans.
Thursday, by the way?
They all do. I
Okay,
don't.
yeah.
And I tell him, and he's going, "Oh, that's great." And then Wayne brings the phone in, April Fool. So. And that was my second April Fool of the day.
Yeah. Oh, well, all right. Well, hold that thought because
Okay.
we got to get this last break and get to the last segment. I got married on April Fool's Day once. What can you tell you?
Joke
all right.
is on her.
Well, yeah, that's all right. I'm Lee Feinswag.
Which
It's
one?
Sports 225.
Breck Parks close at dark.
You want another?
I think they'll pass. Amplified music and sound is prohibited without permission from Breck. No alcoholic beverages on Breck property. Smoking of tobacco products is not allowed. Use of fire is prohibited except in grills. Gotta remember, Breck wants you to have fun, but in the right way. For more info, go to breck.org/HDB.
We're back on Sports 225, where if you've been watching and you haven't been laughing and having fun and being interested, well, I can't help you. We're, like John Brady, who we talked to before, said, doing the best I can with the collection of players I currently have.
You give me a full complement of scholarships. That's what he
right.
used to always
That's
say,
right.
too. He was right. He went to the Final Four.
Unbelievable. Okay, only got a little bit of time left. Thanks to John Williams from JCW for directing the show. Go to sports225.com for all the show listings, because every once in a while I actually go on that website and update it. 7 a.m. Friday on CST is the first airing there. 11 a.m. Saturday on Your View, and et cetera, and all the shows are archived. And if you ever want to go back and have, like, you could do like a Glenn Guilbeau watch-a-thon. They're all on there. That'd be a
Oh,
scary
my goodness.
thought, huh?
Got to
Yeah.
really be bored.
Yeah. What you got going? You got a little spring football and a little this, a little that before we're, you know,
Got spring football, getting back into baseball, getting ready for Jazz Fest, home improvements. Plenty of things going on.
when does your wife get a break from politics?
Um,
Glenn's wife,
Yeah.
Michelle, is on staff for John Kennedy.
Communications director for
Yeah.
Senator Kennedy. That's why it was cool.
And
I got to go to
I hadn't
DC.
seen you since you went up there, didn't you, to DC?
I've been to DC 3 times since December.
Have you embarrassed anybody, like, you know, or you've been on your
No.
best behavior?
No, I haven't. I never do that. What are you talking about? Well, I love DC, man. It's a cool city. It's very compact. Bars and restaurants everywhere. It's like New Orleans, but much more cleaner.
Good point. Where do you stay when you go?
We stay at the Courtyard Marriott Points Navy Yard, which is from here to there to the Nationals baseball stadium, which
Nice.
I saw him play Sunday.
Oh, really?
In the afternoon, watched 6 innings, caught the green line
I
to
know it. Yep.
the arena, watched
Yep.
the basketball game. It was covered the basketball game, just watched the baseball game, so it was awesome on
that's
Sunday.
that's
yeah,
sweet. Yeah.
Quite a doubleheader. Never done that before.
No, I've been on that green line. I know that
Yeah.
well.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's a great train system. Feels safer than the one in New York, and it's clean. But now DC is very organized. You know,
All right, we got
great cigar bar there.
we got like 20 seconds. All right. Next LSU basketball coach is?
Wow.
All right, you failed that
John
one.
Brady.
Next place they can read your stuff.
LSU beat tweet.
That's your Twitter,
That's right. Twitter's what it's all
and
about.
they'll get the link. All right. He's Glenn Guilbeau, not only my good friend but a great guest, and the best part about having him on here for a half hour is I mostly laugh for half an hour. Thanks, sir.
Brady
Enjoy.
ball.
There you go.
Brady ball.
Thanks for watching Sports 225. John, fade us out of here. Get me out before I say something worse.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky. This Spanish Town Mardi Gras, may it never die.